click this one. You click that one. I think we're live. Hello? Hello?
Is there anybody out there?
This is what happens when we get a little high. We're a little bit high now. The last intro was very professional, and this time not so much. It's all a little bit high. But yes, everybody, welcome to High on Homegrown, the cannabis podcast from PercysGrowRoom.com. I am Mackie from the UK, and joining us this week we have Marge.
Yes, hello. This is Marge from Central Canada, Ontario, to be more specific, and host of Biting the Show About Edibles.
Nice. Professional. Nice, Marge. Very professional.
Thank you.
Is the music still playing? Shit! This
I don't know. I
goddamn.
kind of like the idea of music while I'm doing my intro, you know? It's just...
Yeah, a little bit of background music, you know?
Yeah.
That's your theme song, Marge. That's what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. That's right. It will
Marge-
sound fine on the edit, everybody. So don't forget to go download this episode. Okay?
Marge has a soundtrack. That's all it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, smooth. Watch, it'll be smooth. We also have Monkey Do.
Hey, everybody. Monkey down here in the Southeast U.S., just watching everybody else make all these mistakes and doing it perfectly right by here myself. If you believe that. I don't know about that.
Well, we're just talking about dire temperatures.
We were.
Marge was saying it can get down to minus 30 where she is.
Yeah, are there
Damn.
any Canadians in the chat that can confirm that?
It's like,
So
what's
I
the
don't
coldest
confirm.
temperature you've been in, Marge? How cold do you think it is?
Oh, probably minus 30, over minus 30. I mean, it's not like that all the time, but yeah.
Damn.
I've never been anything that cold, ever. Not even a freezer.
Yeah, because it's unnecessary. That's why.
Exactly.
Yeah, so when you breathe in, have you got to like have a special scarf on in case your lungs freeze or something?
Oh
What's the
God,
score?
you get balaclava, scarf, toque, neck warmer, 47 layers.
Is this
Yeah,
why
you shouldn't have exposed skin if it's that cold.
Oof. Is this why you prefer to have edibles? Because if you run out of papers, you ain't going to the shop.
Oh yeah,
just
I'm
to
not
get
going
papers.
nowhere. Yeah, I can make my edibles. I can just hibernate. I don't have to go anywhere.
Damn.
Yeah.
I was just saying that to the missus today because it's freezing outside in the UK. It was like, why can't we do that whole hibernation thing, man? You know, why can't we just store up loads of food and just stay in bed for 4 or 5 months and just come back when it's nice again? You know?
Well, that's what a lot of Canadians do, I think.
Damn.
Yeah,
don't
they
blame
try anyway. I mean, sometimes you still have to like go out and do stuff, but
Damn. Too cold, everybody. Yeah, I'm here like -2 in the UK. It's like I'm dying. It's too cold.
I'm like -2. That's delightful.
You know, that's t-shirt weather, man. What's wrong with you?
Oh my God, I saw somebody. It was probably like, it wasn't that cold this weekend. It's been raining out, but I did spot a fellow in shorts, even though it's like, you know, between -5 and +2 the last several days.
The thing that gets me, Marge, it's not just about being in shorts. It's I saw somebody the other day at the Tesco up the road, and he was wearing shorts, but along with those shorts, because you know you wear shorts where it's hot because you don't want your legs to get too hot. You know you want to try and stay cool, so you wear shorts. But this fucking tool, right, was wearing shorts with a big fluffy jacket and a woolly fucking hat. So are you trying to stay warm or not, bro? What are you doing? Oh my God. Don't be that guy, everybody.
There's
Don't be
always
that guy.
there's always the one guy. There's always one guy.
Gosh.
And it's always a guy, I will say. I've never seen
yeah.
a woman out wearing shorts, except if it's like at the bar at like midnight.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I also have read that trend is disappearing a little bit, but still, yeah.
Yeah, too fucking cold.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But there's always one dude that's doing it.
Yes. Interesting intro there for the show, everybody. Let's all hit our reefers because we're going to be talking about edibles today. To an extent, edibles. We've spoken about edibles before, but this time we're going to be speaking about infusing cannabis with like main meal kinds of dishes. Not gummies and things like that this time. We're talking about turkey, gravy, potatoes, you know, that kind of stuff. So you can infuse cannabis with your festive meals this year. That's the plan. And of course we have Marge, who is the expert with edibles around these parts because she has her own show. You want to
Yes,
spam your
yes.
show again, Marge? Make sure everybody knows about it.
Yeah, if you are interested in making edibles of all types, including those gummies, which are rather popular, but also the savory things, it's Bite Me, the show about edibles.
Nice.
In fact, one
And
of my
I-
latest episodes, I infused some granola.
Nice.
Ooh, I like granola.
And understand you make Turkish delights too.
No, don't say that. Look, oh,
I
here we
sadly
go
do not
again.
make Turkish delights.
How to spin us back into the Turkish delights, you know?
My soap flavor sweets.
Yeah.
They don't taste
Indeed.
like soap. They taste like little
Depends on what soap you use, Marge.
pillows of heaven. I use nice soap. Little pillows of heaven is what they are.
Oh gosh. Yeah. And the last time we did a poll on this, it ended up about 50-50, didn't it?
I think so, but I'm pretty sure the final result might have been that the Turkish delights won, but I might be remembering it
No,
wrong.
that's definitely not what happened. It's definitely,
Okay, well,
it's
I
definitely not
tried.
the case. Definitely not the
I
case.
felt
But-
like it was like skewed the way the question was
oh
asked.
yeah, that's right. It
People
was a bit of
liked
a
it.
dodgy poll, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was a dodgy
Yeah.
poll. Sure.
Like,
Oh,
do you
wow.
hate Turkish delights? Yes or no? Right?
Yeah, yeah, and that's it leaves room for doubt and confusion. So
Confusion and delay.
yes, Yes.
It just reminded me so many things ran through my head then, because confusion and delay, that's the fat controller from, can you say fat nowadays? I don't know. It's the fat controller from Thomas the Tank Engine. Remember that? And then there was some advert. It was fucking terrible, man. Thomas the Train, it was called, and it was Thomas. But you seen these fucking fleshlights that people get? You seen these things? Do you know what I'm talking about when I say fleshlight?
Yes, I do. I
Yes,
do
I
know.
do.
Well,
know
it
what a
was a
fleshlight is.
fleshlight that was designed in the shape of Thomas the Tank Engine. It was,
Oh,
Wow.
no.
what the actual fuck is wrong with people?
There's a kink out there for everybody. So there you go.
Some childhood fucking trauma being sorted out with that thing. What the fuck?
I'll file that one into weird. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just savage. But that it's just the way my mind works sometimes. Like to flick from the fat controller. Like, oh yeah, remember that Thomas the Tank Engine flashlight?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I mean, if Thomas the Tank Engine does it for you, buddy, go for it. Well, I don't know.
As they say, every hole's gold, right?
Oh no.
As they say. As one
That's what they
does.
say here in the
Right.
UK, Yeah, so check it out, everybody. Go and do a Google search for that and watch your internet provider suddenly let you go, Good times. Right, so we should move on to the actual meat of the show here. Yeah, onto the flesh of the show, Savage. Yeah, so was it Ringo? Nice, Billy. You know that Ringo started the voice of Thomas the Tank Engine, and George Carlin did it in the USA. Did you know that?
Really? No, fun fact.
I did know that.
Yeah, man. My kid used to watch a lot of Thomas the Tank Engine. Damn. Good TV. Good TV. But yeah, Ringo used to do it back in the day when I was a kid. It was, and the fat controller, he was very happy.
Said it like that. That sounds like he'd been smoking a lot of weed before he did his voiceovers.
Probably.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt. But yeah, as I said, let's do the Grow Guides then. Let's talk about some edibles and stuff. Let me click this button here. Let's do it. So some certain festivities are about to approach, and we won't say which ones because many people will celebrate different ones. But there's always lots of food to be eaten around this time of year. I think it's how we try and drag ourselves through winter or something, or summertime for you guys in the southern hemisphere. There, imagine having Christmas time over summer. That must be really strange, man.
You go to the beach for Christmas Day,
Barbecue on the beach for Christmas.
Yep.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good.
I'd try it.
You got to try it one time in your life, innit?
Yeah, exactly.
Talk about jet lag, though. Imagine how fucked it would be for that. The whole season's different and everything. Damn. That'd be cool, though. Yeah, so we're going to talk about how to infuse cannabis with all different kinds of meals that you're going to be eating over the next few weeks. Specifically turkey, the turkey dinner. That comes up very soon. Yeah, it's going to be Stonewolf in the chat there said it sucks because he's from Australia, so it's
Mm.
warm for him. And the majority of movies as well, when you see Christmas movies like Die Hard, it's always it's
You just had to
always
throw that in there,
snowy.
didn't you?
Yeah, had to throw that. You couldn't let that
A
pass.
controversy.
It's always snowy. It must be confusing to watch these fucking movies that are all snowy and be like, there's nothing like Christmas. What are you doing?
Right.
Yeah, but anyway, you can keep going off on these tangents now because I'm a little high. So, Marge, you are the edibles expert here. Let's start off with a basic question of what, on the average, the traditional Christmas dinner. I said it there, everybody. You got the turkey, you got potatoes, and vegetables. What kind of thing would you look at infusing with a meal like that?
Honestly, okay, first of all, I have never actually infused a Christmas dinner. So just so that everybody's aware, I know. But sometimes the trickiness with it is that you have, like, I've hosted tons of Christmas dinners, and you have a wide variety of participants who are sitting around the table there. And grandma may not want to get as high as cousin does.
You just don't need that kind of negativity in your life. If that's the case, just ask grandma to leave.
Right.
Oh,
Right.
God,
Yeah,
no.
you could achieve the same thing by paring down your invitee list, of course, and saying, grandma, fuck off, you're not cool. But you might ruffle some feathers if you do that. So
You think?
this is where these infused meals get a little tricky sometimes. But I think your best bet is to go with things like toppings.
Yeah.
So maybe you're going to infuse butters and sauces, and then you can have them labeled, and people can, choose from those and then sort of dose themselves accordingly to what they know about themselves, versus doing like your entire turkey, which might be problematic. Because again, people also have like such variances in tolerance too. If I had Bubble Hawk at my dinner table, he would, be like looking for the 600 milligram turkey leg, and everybody else would be on the floor. So that's probably what I would do. And I've been to an infused lunch before where the host who was making the food did that. She had like various infused. She had like a maple butter, which was really nice. So it was sort of sweet for some of the things that she was serving. But then she did like a couple of butters and sauces, like an infused caramel, I think, sauce as well for some of the desserts. And that way people could also have more food. So if you wanted like an extra helping of stuffing, for instance, but you'd already had, like, if it's infused, it's hard to go for seconds sometimes. And everyone's wearing their track pants for a reason. So
But wait a minute, not if you bubble hop, you'd go for thirds.
okay, well, there you go. Well, yeah, Bubble Hawk is like an outlier, I think.
Okay.
So there's that to consider too. But you just don't know. And this way, grandma can still come, she can still be at the table, or grandpa, or whoever, or the weird uncle, and who doesn't consume cannabis. And all the people who like just want to get blasted can do so at their own, make their choices. And of course you would label it so that people know if it's infused with THC or CBD. Ideally you'd have an idea of how much, but that's what I would do. And then that way, even for myself, if I wanted an extra helping of something, I'm not going to be like, oh, should I do this, and will I do this and regret it later? No, because nothing's infused except for like the butters and some of the sauces that you have.
Yeah, definitely a good way to do it. Keep them separate, because you don't want to get people who don't want to get mashed.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. But you can add that butter to your mashed potatoes and it'll be delicious.
Yeah, you can butter your roll with it. You can do all kind of good things with it. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Well,
So that's how I would approach it.
What about maybe infusing the dessert?
Yeah, you could do that, because a lot of Christmas dinners or holiday dinners or whatever you're doing often have more than one dessert. I mean, sometimes it depends on how many people you're having.
True.
I've been to plenty of dinners where there's multiple dessert options.
It's like before the show started, I mentioned that I had a big lamb dinner. I ate so much, man. And you just eat loads and you've had a smoke. And you're like, I could just about do with a nap right now. That was me before the show. But imagine, you eat all that food and you're stuffed. You couldn't eat anything else, man. Not a single pea. Nothing. He's going, and then you're like, oh, I could definitely squeeze one of those brownies in there. And the brownies
Exactly, man.
infused 15 minutes after it starts kicking in. Jesus. You know, how much of
Sounds
a
like a
good
nice
nap are
night.
you going to have, man? You know, you're going to sleep good that day.
Yeah. Yeah, with the turkey and the dessert, like the turkey already making me feel pretty relaxed.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
So what would you do then, Marge, with infusing this stuff? Would you have would three different things be better? You know, like you say you get gravy, you have zero infused gravy, then you have medium infused gravy for people who don't consume cannabis very much but would like to partake in a little bit of edibles over the festive season, and then you know, the hardcore shit, the fuck around and find out shit. Yeah.
Yeah, you could do that. I mean, sometimes it gets to a point where like that's a lot of work to start making
Mhm.
multiple gravies for people. I have done Christmas dinners where I had two types of gravy because it was like two sides of the family coming over. And one side was just they liked their gravy thick and floury, and the other side preferred it a little thinner. And so I was making two types of gravy, two types of stuffing. But
Mm.
after a while, like, this is bullshit. So it's so ridiculous to do all that extra work. And I was just like, I'm cooking, so I'm gonna do what I want. When I went to the lunch, she had again, she had the butters out, and it was clearly labeled how much cannabis was in, or THC was in the entire little pot of each butter that she had. So
Nice.
for some people, if you have a higher tolerance, you could take multiple little pots of butter because she had them in like little containers.
Mhm.
Kind of like if you go to a restaurant, they give you the butter in a little, those little packages that you get at a cafe or something.
Yeah.
They were a little bit bigger than that, but it was sort of that same idea. And that way you can hopefully accommodate multiple tolerance levels, because that's always the tricky part, which is because I've been to another infused dinner when the chef will infuse every course and they go around ahead of time and ask everybody sort of what their tolerance level is. But I feel like that's getting trickier.
Hmm.
And you want to keep it simple because putting on a whole meal like this it's a lot of work as it
Yeah,
is
yeah.
anyway.
It's a lot of work anyway, yeah, without adding all the different types of shit with a different amount of weed and all that, man. And the
Yeah.
mission. But I
Yeah. So
like
if you
that
have
idea there with the butter, you know, make some like canna butter. See, you put it in like ice cube trays or something to make it solid, and then wrap it in some paper. And you're done,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Nice
that
and
would
easy.
work too. Yeah. And again, you just have sort of an idea of how strong it is so people know what they're getting themselves into. And then something like Bubble Hawk, you might be like, well, I need 5 pats of butter, whatever, 5 cubes of butter,
No,
something,
5 sticks of butter.
5 sticks of butter. Okay. He
Exactly,
needs
yeah.
his whole pound of butter. But but somebody else might be like, well, I just need like a little, a third of that, and that will do me fine. And then they have regular butter to also butter their peas and carrots as well.
Nice.
Yeah.
I could just think of maybe after the meal, sitting there thinking, sipping on a nice can of coffee and a piece of pie would be a great way to
Mm.
infuse a meal, to me, at least.
Yeah. Coffee's always a nice way to end a meal too. And that, you can always just stir in a little, I mean, it doesn't really mix in too great, but stir in a little coconut oil or something like that if you
If you
wanted.
use a little bit of lecithin in it, I find, and then one of those frothers, it works really well to keep it all in suspension really well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I have a Vitamix blender, and I bought a second cup for it a few years ago, and it was like an emulsion blender cup, which
Mhm.
it's the same principle like a frother, but you could probably do a bunch of cups of coffee in that if you wanted. And it does help emulsify things so that it doesn't separate
Right.
and look gross, even though I can overlook a lot of stuff. I'm sure a lot of edibles lovers will overlook a lot of stuff that other people will be like, what are you doing?
Yeah, I've actually
Spitting on
found
the
a little
floor. It's past the 5-second rule. We can't eat that.
Right.
Cost me a
little
tenner.
crumb
I'm
of-
fucking eating it.
No, it's like, fuck that. You know how long it took me to make that? No.
Yeah.
Sorry, Mike. What did you say something?
No, I said, yeah, sometimes you find your little spare little bit of cannabis, brack or something like that in your coffee or something like that. And yeah, you'd have to decide whether you just swallow it or spit it out. Doesn't make any difference to me, but it happens all the time. I mean, you strain it out the best you can, but sometimes you find a little crumb.
Yeah, that's not going to hurt you either.
No, actually, it's probably
Yeah.
good for you if you swallow it. Good roughage.
So what are you
Yes,
saying
exactly.
about dosage with this kind of thing? How would you Yeah, would you just make canna butter? Would you use some kind of different oil or something beforehand? How do you go about getting the actual cannabis to a point where it can be added to the gravy or the butter and things like that? How do you get to that stage?
So you're going to start with your decarboxylation. Is that sort of what you're asking?
Hmm.
Right? Yeah. You're going to start with your decarboxylation, a step you do not want to skip. Because I mean, over the years, I've had lots of people ask me, well, okay, doesn't it just kind of like decarb when you're doing the infusion? It does a little bit, but no, you want to do the decarb first. So you're going to do that. Probably most people are going to do it in their oven unless they're really getting into edibles and they're buying gadgets and stuff to help that process. Because of course, as we all know, anybody who has decarbed before knows that it's fragrant, very, very fragrant. So
Good way to put it. Fragrant. Yeah.
yes, yes. And that smell does tend to linger for a little bit of time. It just doesn't go away in my experience. I haven't done it in a while because I have an Ardent FX. And when you put it in something like that, it really does help to eliminate the smell, but not everybody's ready to invest in something like that. So I've never tried it myself, but some people swear by the like mason jar trick of putting your weed in a mason jar before you put it in the oven. Yeah, Shoddy Fusion was just saying mason works well. And you put a foil lid on it because obviously the ones that come with the mason jar have that rubber ring on it and that will melt in the oven probably. So you don't want to do that, but it helps trap the smell in the jar when you're decarbing it to hopefully, you know, not upset your neighbors or your roommates or whatever the case might be. Or if you're in a place where it's not legal. I've never tried it myself. I had a listener recommended it to me. So I don't know if anybody in the chat's ever tried it and found that it actually works.
No, I've never tried decarbing with. I've only decarbed a few times really, and then I just lay it on some greaseproof paper and cook it. I don't put it in jars or anything like that.
Yeah. Well, some people are just concerned about the smell because
Yeah.
that smell is pretty powerful.
I've only done the jar method when I used a crock pot. Basically, just put them in a crock pot in mason jars for all day. And it decarbed okay, but it just seemed like it was, because then you got a crock pot to clean up afterwards. It was too much extra stuff to deal with. So while it worked, I wouldn't do it again.
Did it keep the smell trapped though? Or like, did it?
Yes.
It did.
It was probably about the level of smell that you get from a levo, which is like, yeah, somebody who's familiar with the odor might notice it, but it was not like sticking it in the oven and decarbing there. And that was way, way, way less.
Yeah, because I find in the Ardent there's pretty well no smell if you're standing right next to the device and you're like looking to, unless you're maybe a super smeller or whatever. There's people who are like that, but I find there's pretty well no noticeable smell, and I don't get complaints. Whereas in the oven, it reeks. So it really does. And depending on who you're living with or where you live, that might not be ideal. So, or if you're in an apartment building or anything where there's a lot of people around, you don't necessarily want everybody to know that you're toasting weed in your oven. So I have been recommended the mason jar trick, and I'm glad to hear that it does work for those people who need it, because not everybody wants to spend a few $100 on that, or like on a decarb device like the Ardent or the Levo. Or sous vide works as well for people if you already have one of those devices. They're probably not as commonly known. Like I know you have one, Monkey, but I find that most people, when you mention sous vide, they have no idea what you're talking about.
Right. Water bath, basically the same principle as using a crock pot in the mason jars, except you're using vacuum sealed plastic bags in a temperature controlled water bath.
Right. And chefs love them. Chefs absolutely love like immersion circulators in the sous vide bath, because the temperature control is far outweighs the temperature control you get in an oven. Ovens are not that accurate, and your temperatures will vary quite a bit. It's sort of like when you follow a recipe and it says to bake at, this temperature for this amount of time, and you're finding you have to put it back in the oven for longer, or, you have to keep it on because it overcooks, because your oven is not the same as the one that the cookbook author used. Right. So sous vide does work well, and you can use it decarb. You can use it for your infusions. You can use it to do all kinds of neat stuff. And I haven't done a decarb in it, but I use jars. I don't always use plastic bags. You can use jars as well.
We interviewed a chef early on, stoner chef. He lives out in Oregon, Bend, Oregon area. But anyway, I absolutely advocated the sous vide method for decarbing because he liked the fact that it is completely contained, and that even though the bag inflates during the process, he would put it in the refrigerator after and recondense all the terpenes. And he swore that he got a stronger infusion because his terpenes were intact. So
Right.
whether I've never gone that far, but I do know that when I did the sous vide, I failed to condense the terpenes. And when I opened the bag, the liquid terpenes were literally on the inside of the bag. And it was the coolest thing ever because I had never tasted pure terpenes before.
Hmm. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. Yeah, and sous vide is just, it's, you set it and then you forget it. You can just walk away and
Right.
go about your business and come back, and it's just going to be there doing its thing. Whereas in the oven, you probably shouldn't leave the house or anything. So, for a safety perspective, sous vide is also very safe, and it's going to contain the smell, which is what you want. And it's a really versatile cooking utensil too. I've made all kinds of stuff in my sous vide, like cooked meats, and made butter and yogurt and all kinds of stuff besides just cannabis related things. So,
Right.
yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So decarb, say if we decarb an ounce, and if anybody wants any more details on decarbing, we do have an episode previously in the Grow Guides. I'm not sure exactly what number it was, but we did cover decarbing. So check that out if you want to know more details about decarbing. But once you've decarbed, say, an ounce of cannabis, what would you do then?
Well, after you have your decarbed cannabis, that's when you're going to, preferably you're going to want to infuse it in something because it makes it more versatile. I know Ardent actually often talks about the instant edible, which is once that weed is decarbed, you could technically just take it and sprinkle it on your food and you would get high.
That's a required flavor, though. That is.
It is, yeah.
I've done it. It works. It's sometimes a little bit odd texture, but not too bad.
Yeah, I think it depends on what you're going to be doing it with. Like, I think they've talked about sprinkling it right on your salad, and maybe depending on the salad dressing you're using, the type of salad you have, it would sort of blend in nicely with the flavors. If you eat it with something like peanut butter is such a strong taste and flavor consistency, maybe you wouldn't notice it so much. But the reason people do infuse it into something is it just makes it, you can use it in more places that you couldn't otherwise, because putting straight decarb weed on something is not as elegant as it might otherwise be if you would infuse it in butter or oils. So
I don't know. Now think about it. Now I go sit down there for Christmas dinner and somebody's got an ounce of decarbed weed in a bowl sitting in the middle of the table. I'm thinking like, this could be fun.
Right.
Or one of them salt shakers, you twist it.
Exactly.
One of those full of decarb weed. It's like
decarb weed meal. Yeah. Would you like some decarb weed on your salad? Yes.
When you mention that though, like the Christmas dinner, having like a bowl of decarb weed and putting it in with your like stuffing could be a good way to enjoy it, because I feel like the flavors of the stuffing would probably help mask some of that.
Yeah, especially if it was like a haze or something, like super silver, that would go well with stuff. And I always thought.
Yeah, the problem I had with it using it that way was the weed texture is really dry and crunchy, and you kind of want it. Food is not really so dry and crunchy all the time. It's more moisture in it, so. You'd have to I'm thinking maybe you need to moisturize that bud a little bit before you're going to be able to swallow it efficiently.
Right. Yeah, especially if you have cotton mouth.
I'm kind of thinking like maybe oatmeal. Put it in oatmeal would probably work.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you can always experiment with it. The only tricky part too is, I guess, if you just have a bunch of decarbed weed, you might not know how strong it is. I mean, if you know how strong, like if you grew it yourself, as a lot of people in this podcast probably have, you may not have any idea how strong that is. So it's sort of, that becomes a bit of a fuck around and find out experiment, which you may not want to do with dinner guests.
You're definitely going to have the right guests for that one.
Yes. Yes.
You're adventurous friends.
Yes, exactly. So the next thing you might want to do is consider infusing it into something. I mean, we just gave you a bunch of ideas of how to use straight decarbed weed, but you could also infuse it into your butter. I like to use olive oil, avocado oil, and you can infuse it pretty well into any fat, just about, and alcohols too.
What's the process of doing that into like butter or the coconut oil? So say we're working with an ounce of cannabis again, what would we do?
In my what I've done in the past, I mean, now because I've been doing this show for so long, I've got devices coming out my ears. So that's what I tend to use these days, but you don't need to. I always put it in a jar with my butter or my oil, like in a mason type jar. And then I would put it in a pot of water and I would just simmer on the stove for a couple of hours. And that's it. Obviously take it out and then strain it.
Mhm.
And then try and figure out the potency of said infusion. I have a T-check, so that's what I tend to use these days, but there's lots of calculators online that can help you with that process. Or if you know the math, you can sort of do it that way. But there happens to be a calculator on my very own website, which also does give you the math behind it. So if you're one of those people that likes that kind of stuff, which is not myself, then you can always, exercise your brain a little bit before you get stoned.
Do it before the edible, not afterwards. Don't take it and then be like, oh, I
Yes.
better add this shit up, because you might be
Right.
unpleasantly surprised.
Numbers
Yeah.
don't make sense anymore. Yeah.
Yeah. Seeing cross-eyed. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, some people like the crock pot method. I don't know why. I just like the jar and a pot method. That seems to work for me. And of course, most people have a pot and a jar. So it's, accessible to anybody. You don't need any fancy equipment to do your infusions. I mean, some people might argue if you do it in something like a magical butter machine, for instance, or an ardent or whatever, that you might get more potent infusions, and that could very well be the case, but sometimes I think you're splitting hairs too. So, if it may, yeah, that's just my opinion on that, and I'm standing by it. But
I kind of agree with you on that, though. I mean,
yeah,
seems like for me at least, almost every infusion is slightly different. It goes slightly different, even if I'm using the same weed. I don't know, temperature differences here and again. So I fully understand what you're talking about, how important it is to check the potency there, especially if you're going to have guests over, because it
yeah,
always comes out slightly different.
right. Yeah, and as soon as you're getting into like feeding other people your edibles, you really don't want them to have a bad time, because that's going to turn them off weed, maybe forever.
Yeah.
Like I
And you'll
know,
feel responsible for looking after them.
yeah, because back in the day, this was going way, way back, but one of the first times my sister ever consumed cannabis was also probably the last time. So, it was never for her. She did not have an enjoyable time. And yeah, I mean, that's just the reality of the thing. She was so uncomfortable. I got too high, obviously. It was so uncomfortable that she's never really been keen on ever repeating that experience. And when you get it right, it can be so lovely that you just don't want to scare people away. And you want to erase that stigma of, all those preconceived notions that a lot of people have about who cannabis users are. Because as far as I'm concerned, cannabis users are literally everybody. If you
Yeah.
look around a crowded room, the doctor and the lawyer and the custodian and the stay-at-home mom, like all these people, there's cannabis users amongst us all, and they're from all walks of life. So yeah, that's my PSA.
We just have to hide it, which is a shame.
Yeah, in some places, but I mean, even in Canada, there's still probably some stigma around cannabis users. I was talking to somebody about that just the other night, actually, where they were out somewhere and I think they were smoking a joint and they were being respectful and kind of stepping away. They're outside and trying to, step away from the crowd or whatever. And there's some people there that were not too pleased about it. And the person felt a little judged, perhaps, because they were consuming cannabis. And this is in Canada, where it's been legal for 5 years. So some of those stigmas still do exist.
Right.
So it's up to us, folks. It's up to us.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Yeah, these stigmas exist both ways, because where I live, of course, it is still prohibition land down here. We have festivals all the time down here during the summertime, and in the close of one of the festivals we attended, somebody, as the music is playing and everybody's having a good time, whips out one of these I think they were about 12 inches, but about 30 centimeter long raw cones, about a half a pound of something inside there, lights it up and starts passing around the crowd. And around where I am, there's a lot of people who are kind of curious, but it's not
Mhm.
available. So we just happen to be sitting there, and so this woman standing in front of us tells my wife, "Would you mind holding my purse and watching out for me? I've never tried it before, and I'm curious." And so my wife made the agreement. Now, of course, we got vape sticks in our pockets, and we don't say anything about that, of course. But anyway, she went over there, and it was really nothing more than hemp, is what they were smoking, honestly.
Mm.
But she had her experience, and she came back, and because it was a mild dose, she had 2 hits of hemp. She felt a little bit of a buzz. She got her stuff, and she was happy as can be. And again, if that would have been strong weed and taking those 2
If
hits,
it
she
would
would
have been mind altering super skunk.
it would have been my
Yeah.
homegrown. She would have been on her ass, I guarantee it. But yeah, it's important that we, that the curiosity and stigma goes both ways. Some people that really want to try it, and some people that are just so afraid of it.
Yeah, and that's because so many people too have grown up in that, reefer madness or dare eras where it was so vilified. If you're going to smoke weed, you're going to be in a back alley shooting heroin next week. And a lot of that
Right.
social, those messages that we got for a lot of people are really hard to sort of shake because it always has that fear in the back of their mind, even though it's obviously not true. It was all propaganda. But when you
Yeah.
see the messages over and over and over and over again, which is the whole point of propaganda, then it just creates that fear that, yeah. So good for that woman to be like, yeah, I'm going to give it a shot right now in a public space. Cause I don't know if I'd be that person, but
Yeah, it was amazing to me to watch this all going on there. And there was a couple of police officers in the back that really could care less about what was happening. I
right.
pretty much understood that was hemp in that cone. There was no way. Look at it. This is like a college kid here. And thinking like, no way this college he could afford a half a pound of cannabis to be torching up for the crowd here. I'm thinking like, nah, this is all for show right here. But
Right.
but
Yeah.
it was nice that the fact that you did have somebody and more than one who were just willing to go over there and say, "Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Let's see what you got."
Yeah. Yeah. I do recall one of my favorite interactions when I worked at the dispensary was this little old lady came into the dispensary, and some of these old folks were my favorite customers because they were really open-minded and asked really good questions.
Uh-huh.
And this lady was pretty elderly. And I think she mentioned she had tried cannabis like probably 60 years ago or something like that. But now that it was legal, she wanted to try it again. And she wasn't like, "Oh, take me to the oils and the tinctures, where are the gummies?" She literally walked out the door with a pipe and a lighter and some weed. And it was
Damn.
I know, it was such a cool interaction. I mean, I set her up with something like, a ratioed
Yeah.
low
A
THC.
nice 1-1 kind
Yeah.
of balance. So give her a nice ride.
Yeah. And it
That
was just
still though
so
would have
great.
fucking mashed her up. When
Oh,
she goes home,
probably.
she hits that herb in that pipe. She got
Hey, you
whoa.
know what? That's a lady who walked in saying YOLO, bro. That's it.
Yeah, I hope she enjoyed it,
Yeah,
man. I hope she had a good time.
I
Darn
know, I
right,
do
man.
too. And I just obviously advised her to start very, very low.
Mm.
But
Take
just the
one hit.
curiosity that she had and the willingness to try it. She's like, it's legal now, and I haven't
Nice.
done it in a gazillion years. So
That's
there's
it.
definitely
And infusing these dishes over the festive period, when you see all your family members and stuff, if you do it right, you can possibly encourage people to have their first experiences with cannabis in their lives or in a long time. If you approach it
Mhm.
properly,
Right,
that would
right.
be cool. To see grandma getting high and a little bit of edibles to enjoy the season and stuff. That'd be cool, man. But
Yeah, which
you
is
don't want to
also
get
like,
him passed out though.
yeah. Which is also why if you have access to like CBD weed as well, that can be something nice to have on hand in an infusion, just because it's a little less intimidating for if you're trying to get grandma or grandpa high or whatever. They're gonna maybe feel a little more comfortable starting out that way, or if it's like low dose, like low THC cannabis or something like that. Once you have your infusion too, like your butter or your oils, then you can make all kinds of stuff, and anything that you would be making like sweet or savory, whether it's for an actual dinner or not, you just swap out the oil or the fat that's called for in the recipe for your infused version. And you can always use a ratio, because if you're using an ounce of cannabis in, say, like 1 or 2 cups of a fat, that can you can end up having a pretty strong infusion. And if you know there's going to be people that will be enjoying your edibles that may not have high tolerances, you don't necessarily want to, go full throttle.
No, you
What
don't
would
want
you
to. You
say
don't
was
even
a
want
good
it
ratio?
available.
You know, for an ounce, how much butter would you use for an ounce? How much would to infuse the whole ounce into the butter?
Well, I mean,
250 grams or something?
like I've used an ounce in a couple of cups of butter or
Yeah.
oil.
What's cups again? How many?
Oh, right.
Well, we
500
would call that a pound of butter, and pound of butter to an ounce of weed usually is what we.
It's about 500 grams. Yeah.
Yeah, or 500 milliliters if you're doing like an olive oil or something like that.
Right.
But it also,
Mhm.
it's going to depend on what you're using. For me, I'm often using like trim or shake from
Right.
stuff that I've grown, and it's going to be more potent, obviously, if you're using bud.
Yeah.
So bear that in mind too.
Yeah.
The type of plant
Just
material
goes
that
to
you're.
show how different it can be with the amount of the potency, depending on
Yeah.
what you're using. You know how strong the bud is. It's very difficult to get the potency, man, to get the right dosage.
Yeah.
So start slow
That's
when
sort
you
of the
first
trick.
try it out. You know. Sorry,
Yeah,
Marge?
that's sort of the trick when it comes to making edibles, is just sort of figuring out those little details. But that's why they say go low, start
Yeah.
low, go slow.
If I'm going to be doing something like this for a holiday gathering, I think I'm going to be doing a dry run first because I need to be double
Yes.
sure if I'm having guests over.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
absolutely a very good idea, to do a dry run of some kind, so that you know you can have some expected results. You don't want surprises.
Oh no.
Yeah. Who killed Grandma? You know. So, it's okay. She's not dead. I had one of those yesterday, and it was fine.
Right.
It's just a little whitey. She's fine.
You're just happy. You can see the little smile on her face. Yeah. Actually, Red Eye Gooner in the chat says that ghee works well, works better than butter, and ghee is a fantastic fat to infuse too.
Yeah.
So
But
that's
can you use it in
Actually,
the same way you use butter? You know, for making cakes and things like that. Can you use ghee in the same way you use butter?
I don't see why you couldn't. I tend not to, because ghee is a little more, like, to buy it is more expensive. You can make
Yeah.
your own ghee at home too.
yeah, it's
You're
just,
just like
isn't
reducing
it
butter.
clarified butter?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's exactly what it is. But
Yeah.
it has a really nice flavor.
Mhm.
It's used a lot in like a lot of Indian cooking and stuff, but it's a great fat. You can also infuse duck fat, which I've done,
Mhm.
and that
Well,
can
that
be
would-
really nice.
That'd be a great gravy with the duck fat in it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's great on potatoes and
Oh.
vegetables. And, oh yeah, duck fat's like, oh, it's so good.
Mhm.
Just
I
thinking about it now.
really like your idea earlier, though. You said about your friend had everything pre-proportioned out there. I'm thinking, like, even if you had gravy, you could have it in pre-proportioned cups, saying like, this is 10 milligrams in this cup.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
that kind of thing like that, so everybody would know, oh, I only want so much of this, and that way you could take so much infused and then top off with non-infused kind of thing.
Right. Yeah. And Stonewolf was asking if I clarify my butter before infusion. Why or why not? What, quite the question. I don't actually.
What's
And I
clarify?
don't. Well, that's when you're reducing it down. If you can end up with ghee when you're clarifying butter.
Removing all the solids out of the butter and preserving only the oils, Mackie, and the water as well, getting rid of the water out of the butter.
Yeah. So I don't, but to be fair, I also don't tend to infuse butter as much as I infuse oil. And I find personally, I find that the oil I just use it for more stuff. So I don't use butter as much. And I also find butter, once you infuse it, it kind of makes it more, less, what's the word? I was thinking about it the other day. Like more susceptible to mold and stuff if you don't store it properly.
Never had. Well, I guess I don't store it very often. I just use it.
Right. More perishable, I guess.
Yeah. So I was thinking non-perishable. What's the opposite to non-perishable? Perishable. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if you're using it in a pretty timely manner, but I just find that I have usually several infusions on hand at the same time. So, and
So
I
when you spoke about the duck fat there, would you say that's the same thing? Put about an ounce of cannabis into 500 grams / 2 cups of duck fat.
Yeah, that would probably be a couple containers of duck fat.
Nice.
I think. But yeah,
Just
yeah,
then you
you
can
can do
just
that.
dip some bread in that.
Yeah, duck fat.
Oh, Mackie with the fat. Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
that's so good.
Mm-mm.
And then as you could all, so I know you're all imagining all the things you can do. If you have like infused duck fat or infused ghee, butter, like all this stuff, you can do so much, you can do so many things with it.
Mhm.
Like it's pretty well endless.
Yeah. And that's it. It's like when people think about cannabis edibles, they usually think about gummies, or
Yeah.
the drinks are
Brownie.
a new thing. Some chocolate space cakes, brownies. People think along those kind of lines, and that's what. Well, when I have done edibles in the past, I've done it by decarbing the cannabis and then putting the cannabis into a cake mixture, which is okay. It works, gets you high, but you can taste the plant a lot more. But if you infuse it properly into some oil, like duck fat, which sounds good, butter, which also sounds good. Come on, butter's just good shit as well, right?
I know.
You
Yeah.
know? So you just infuse either one of those, and you can pretty much make anything, right? I
Yeah.
mean, butter and and duck fat, well, you can make so many things with that.
And
Well,
Gravy.
the
honestly,
other,
it doesn't have to be complicated either. Like if you have infused butter, you can put, or like infused olive oil, you can put a drizzle of that on like your vegetables, and now you have an edible. Or like a pat of butter on something. You don't have to necessarily go to all the trouble of like, if you're not someone who really likes to bake, or you're not a huge cook, then you don't have to make the 3-layer cake or the 57 cookie recipe or whatever the case is. You can just keep it simple.
yeah, and you could also do things such as using tinctures and create
Mhm.
holiday cannabis cocktails.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so much you can do, man.
Yeah,
So much.
Mm-mm.
So much.
and
So what are
infuse
you
our
going to be making?
sugars. You know,
Sorry, monkey.
I said you could infuse our sugars and go into sweet drinks and syrups and whatnot like that too. So, maybe some infused ice cream topping. All kind of interesting
Mm.
things you can do. The
Mhm.
sky's the limit, right, Marge?
Oh, for sure. Like somebody just messaged me recently and they're like, forget where this message came from, but they said they sometimes will just take chocolate, melt it down, add some like an infused fat, and then put it into molds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really easy to do.
Yeah, easy.
Yep, super
Yeah.
easy.
What about bioavailability when that comes in? Monkey, you mentioned sunflower lecithin earlier on, and that
Yes.
increases bioavailability by quite a large amount when it comes to the way the liver absorbs cannabis. So if you're using some kind of it's not emulsifier, is it? What's the right word?
It is an emulsifier.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
is.
Right. And that changes the way the cannabis is processed, so you get it hit so much harder by it, right? Is that
It's
something you
different.
put in there? What you
Yeah,
say,
I
Monkey?
do. I frequently do, and it hits differently. I find that it does hit harder when it hits, uh, and the duration seems to be a little bit less for me when I'm using lecithin. If I don't use the lecithin, the onset seems to be a little bit more gradual, and it seems to last a little longer and ease out a little bit more gradual. So I would say that the lecithin, for me at least in my situation, seems to be making it more available to my body faster. But I don't know if I'm getting the same amount of high on each one. I enjoy it both ways, but I usually do add the lecithin if I have it available. The biggest reason that I've found is because it makes the fats more mixable with anything else I put it with. If I put if I'm using the coconut, or actually I'm using avocado oil with the lecithin in it, and I put that in coffee, it will go in solution and stay in solution. It won't float to the top. If I don't have the lecithin in it, it's gonna just float like an oil slick on top eventually. So the same thing with gummies, making gummies. If I don't use the lecithin as an emulsifier, it's sometimes common that once everything congeals, the oil just floats right off to the top. So you've got basically a gummy that's not infused, which is coated with infused oil. So
Right.
and if you get the right lecithin, my wife is pretty picky on flavors sometimes, and I was kind of curious because I'd heard this lecithin has a bad flavor. She tasted it and said nothing bad about that. I'm fine with it. It's basically it's used in salad dressings and everything else, just an emulsifier.
And what kind of
Nice.
lecithin do you use? Do you usually do
I,
sunflower or soy?
I use sunflower. It's just easier to find, and I like working with it.
Yeah, that's what I tend to use too. I don't use the lecithin a lot, but it does totally make sense, especially for what you mentioned about the gummies.
Yeah,
Because I find if you're using an oil in those types of recipes, it can separate.
it does.
And then they're not as definitely not as nice. And then I don't feel like you're gonna get as homogeneous of a mixture either.
No.
So for those types of applications or the coffee, like you mentioned, definitely worth adding the lecithin.
Yeah, and it's cheap, easy to
Yeah,
find,
I
and
just gonna say
natural
that.
product, all the good stuff, you know.
Not expensive to buy. You can usually get like a big jar of it.
The Stonewolf said here in the chat, I used your shortbread recipe last week, Marge. Everyone loves them. Making more for Christmas.
Oh, that recipe is
Oh,
good because
yeah,
they're like
man.
it's easy shortbread recipe.
Mm-mm.
And I also did a lemon curd recently, and somebody mentioned that they were taking some of the lemon curd and putting it on shortbread cookies, and I was
Oh,
that's
like,
what I'm just thinking. I'm
"That
thinking like,
sounds
wow,
really
that
good."
would be good on that shortbread.
Yeah, I mean, I ate it right off the spoon, but you know, I was just like, "Ooh, that'd be good."
Yeah, you could use like the shortbread, yeah, dip that stuff. Yes,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
chips. Oh
yeah,
man,
So
yeah.
yeah, anybody looking for recipes, I mean, that's just the shortbread there. And Marge has got, how many recipes do you even have now, Marge? You've got to be up to over 100, right?
Oh God, yeah, because I have like over 200 episodes now. They're not all recipes, but yeah. So I've infused a lot of different stuff.
That's right. And your website is just bitemepodcast.com, is it? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Nice and easy to find.
Yes.
So I want to encourage everybody, you know, especially all growers. It's coming up to the end of the year. Christmas time is coming up. You know, whatever festival you celebrate, everybody celebrates Christmas in some form or another. You know, it's just celebrating the end of the days getting shorter and the nights getting longer, and it's backwards. Good. The equinox
Yeah,
is it?
solstice. So we're getting
Solstice.
in
Yeah.
just like when you start to have hope again.
Mm-hmm. Like it's not going to be so cold anymore, but then it gets even more cold. Yeah, but you know, it's the way out. It's the start of things getting warmer again. So all
Yeah.
these different religions have different ways of celebrating it. So you know, you've grown a lot of cannabis this year. Hopefully you've had some successful harvests, and you have enough cannabis lying around where you can spare an ounce or two to go and make some of these edibles. You know, and go to Marge's website and have a look through all of the different recipes she's got. She's got loads, over 100 recipes. You'll find something that's your favorite shit, and you'll be like, "Damn, I love that shit." You can infuse that shit, and then you'll go and do it, and you'll enjoy it. So go to Marge's website, figure out how much cannabis you need, and make some nice infused dishes, man. And make sure they're labeled properly, especially if you're going to be taking them
Yes.
to the Christmas party. Make sure people know what the score is with these brownies or shortbread or gravy, whatever you
I would
choose.
also add label them as well if it's just for your own personal consumption, because you never know, somebody could go into the fridge that you live with and be like, oh, this looks good, and if you haven't labeled them, then they might be in for a surprise.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
also I find I forget shit, so I could put it in the fridge and be like, oh, I don't know how strong these were, like how many of these can I eat? So it's also for your own forgetful ass.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Unless you know, if you live with your family, you know, you got kids, you got a wife at home, that kind of thing, then definitely label it. But if you're like in shared accommodation, you're a student, you know, and you've made some shit, and somebody keeps eating your stuff, then don't label that shit. Find out who the
Right.
fuck did it. You know.
Yeah.
Label it wrong. Yeah, label it something else.
You
Yeah.
know, you'll soon know somebody's gonna eat one. Who took this? Wasn't me. It's like, all right, we'll see in half an hour who the fuck took my edible.
Let's fuck around and
Yeah.
find that edible. Yeah, we'll find out who
You
took
know?
it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, man. There's so many different kinds of edibles you can do. The technology has advanced so much with cannabis in it in so many different ways over the last 20 years. You know, back in my day, it was
And back
just
when
space cakes,
we used
man.
to smoke cannabis. Yeah, we used to smoke cannabis the old-fashioned way. With a lighter.
You know, we used to wrap our cannabis in paper and set fire to it.
Exactly.
It's so true though, because again, when I was at the dispensary, lots of people would come in and be looking for edibles, and they'd be like, "Oh," everybody had a story when they got way too high, but so many people are also like, "Back in my day, we would just like throw the weed right into the batter,"
Yeah.
and then they're like, they tasted awful, and I was like, not surprisingly, of course they
Yeah,
taste.
and it didn't get you very high either back in the day when they did that.
Because people
Yeah.
didn't decarb it.
That's probably also true.
Yeah, that's a new thing. I've made edibles in the past without decarbonate, and
Yep.
that completely changes the fucking game.
I can remember a specific set of brownies that we made with somebody back at university. We found somebody selling really cheap bags of weed. It was $30 an ounce. And it was shit weed, but we decided we were going to make edibles, and we dumped a whole ounce into one pan of brownies. Didn't infuse anything, just baked it in there. Oh my God, we couldn't eat that stuff. It was horrible. It was like eating hay.
It's like plant, yeah.
Tasted like hay. It was like, oh my God. It was like, what are we doing here?
Man,
At least we didn't spend a lot of money though. It was like, yeah, well, no big deal.
Before, back in the day, we go again.
Back in my day,
you know, it was New Year's Eve, and working in entertainment, you kind of like have to work those nights most of the time. So got a shitload of space cakes baked the old-fashioned way, no decarb, just pretty much herb in some batter, and then you fucking make cake out of it. You know, took those to work, and they were terrible, man. They taste so much like plants, but they still mashed us up. You know, passing them out to everybody getting fucking mashed, and just look around the place and everyone's got swollen, puffy eyes, you know, all fucking mashed.
Imagine if you would have decarbed it first, what would have happened?
Oh, no, God damn, there would have been people being sick and shit.
Exactly.
Falling asleep.
Actually, one last thing I want to mention too, if anybody's like considering making some edible that they're not familiar with, like a recipe of some kind that they're not familiar with, a lot of advice I've gotten before is to, like you said earlier, Monkey, do a test run, not just for the potency, but a test run whereas if it's a new recipe, you're unfamiliar with it, or maybe unfamiliar with the techniques used in that recipe, to try it without your infusion if you have time, because if you fuck it up, then you're just wasting your precious infusion. And I have done that before.
Right, yeah, nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, good one. Because you don't want to just fucking waste it. You've burnt them, or you haven't cooked the center of the cake too much, or something, and you fuck everything up. Yeah, good plan. Do a run up with some just ordinary food first.
Right. Yeah. Like when I made the Turkish delight, I did not infuse it.
Stop bringing that shit up. It makes me gag every time.
And they turned out terrible, which is why
I can taste soap again.
The commercial market. Well, I'm just saying, it's just a recent experience I had. I'm just not trying to pick it up all the time. It's just...
She's just trolling us now, Monkey.
Really?
No, I'm just trolling you.
Very true, very true.
Monkey doesn't have a problem with the Turkish delight, I don't think.
I would give it a shot. I mean, I've never really, honestly, what you're describing, I've never eaten that, so I'd try it. But I'll admit right now, you know, just the idea of a rose flavored sweet just doesn't really thrill me. But yeah, why not?
Yeah, you should try them. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised. Don't listen to Mackie's reaction.
It's not going to be anytime soon. I doubt there's any place around here that serves Turkish delight. So yeah.
Oh, we can send you one. It shouldn't be too difficult to send you a Turkish delight.
Good thing nobody knows where I am. Yeah, that's it.
That's right.
Well, actually, Rose Edibles does do a lot of online business, and they ship to anywhere in the country, I believe.
Oh boy. Oh, there you go.
Just saying.
Sounds more tempting now, Monkey. But don't get edibles. Don't spend like 50 quid on these edibles. You're going to get in and taste the first one and be like, I can't fucking eat that. It's soap. It's hand soap. Hand sanitizer flavor.
But I promise you, if I would buy that, if it would be like, let's say fairly or even reasonably pricey, if I got home here and if I didn't like it, the missus wouldn't let me throw it away. She'd eat it, but I don't care. I am not wasting.
That's right.
There's no way.
I'll put a peg on my nose. I don't give a fuck. I'm eating it.
Darn right, man.
Well, yeah, man, just some disclaimers there. You know, be careful, everybody. The last thing you want to do is dose somebody who didn't want to get dosed and getting them fucking wasted, man. That's not cool. Make sure everything is well labeled. Make sure everybody knows what the fuck is going on. And if somebody does want to partake in it, make sure they understand as well. This isn't just some light-powered, because it might be, but just exaggerate it. Make sure that they know that they have to be careful with this stuff and don't eat too because it hasn't kicked in the first hour. You know, explain the rules to them. Make sure that they're fully aware of what they're just about to get themselves into before they start eating up on
Yeah, eating
anything
too. That's like
infused.
one of those like these edibles ain't shit memes that you see.
Mm-hmm.
Where somebody's just like, what? And the next thing you know, they're like walking on the ceiling or something.
They're walking their dog with their Xbox controller, you know?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
That's where
and
these come from.
you're gonna have to adjust your rules and your methods according to the crowd you have there. I mean, if it's your old stoner crowd that does this all the time, you probably are not going to have a problem. But if this is the family and you got a few newbies in there, just like everybody's been saying, man, be careful.
That's right. But as we said,
adjust accordingly.
Yeah, as we said as well, you can go over to Marge's website and her podcast. Just do a Google search for Bite Me the show about edibles, and that'll find all of it, really, won't it, Marge? Everything you need.
Yeah, yeah. You can listen to the episodes right off the website too, but it is on all your favorite podcasting platforms.
Nice. Very professional, as always, Marge.
Thank you.
And of course, if you do make something, get it over up on percysgrowroom.com. We want to see it. We want to see what you've made. We'd like to see this kind of thing.
Yeah, or tag me on Instagram. Instagram's where I'm most active as far as all the social platforms go, but I love to see what people are making.
Yeah, man. Come and share with us so we can see it. And good luck to you all. You know, do it if you can. If you do have the spare cannabis, don't be shy. Don't be shy. You know, just give it a shot.
Yeah, and as most of you are growers out there, you have that sugar leaf and all that stuff that's gold. That stuff is gold.
After a trim and shit like that. Yeah.
You're sitting in trim jail and you're like, fuck, this sucks. Just remember, you're gonna have weed and you're gonna have so much fodder for edibles.
Hey. And, you know, as I said, it's Christmas as well. You just throw some fucking buds in there as well. Don't do it with just a leaf. Spoil yourself this time of year. Spoil yourself.
I'm spoiled to death. I only use leaf to make edibles. Hey, it's for me. I'm worth it.
Also, in South Silly, just for another final point, mentions ABV. Is AVB?
It's AVB, isn't it?
Yeah. That threw me off for a second.
That
already
one, yeah.
Bud.
Yeah.
So all you people out there using dry herb vaporizers, you have automatically decarbed your cannabis. So save that stuff because you can use that in your infusions.
I find that it makes a really let's say a mild infusion is a good way to put it as far as strength goes.
Yeah.
And that maybe it's because I vape all the way until I get nothing else off the bud, and that makes me put the temperatures up there pretty high sometimes. But I find that the flavor of that infusion kind of has a different flavor profile to it. I don't know why, but I think it's because it's been as opposed to just being decarb, this has been really toasted.
Right. Yeah. But if it's not as potent, sometimes having stuff that's not as potent can be applicable, depending on who you're giving your edibles to. Or maybe you yourself don't have a super high tolerance. There's tons of people out there who don't need, the bubble hawk version of whatever.
Yeah, they haven't been eating that kind of edible now for the last so many years, and
yeah,
I'm sure that when I first started, if I would be taking the dosage I'm taking now, I would have put me flat out. But there's no doubt. But yeah, your tolerance does build. Like I said, I'm a medical user, and I dose edibles every morning, so I'm used to it. So one of those kids. Yeah.
So there we go, everybody. And of course, any questions, you can ask us over at percysgrowroom.com, or you can ask Marge as well. Just find her on Instagram. If you just Google Bite Me the Show About Edibles, you'll find everything you need to know there. But very cool. Thanks for all the information there, Marge. Lots of good info there about
thanks for letting me showcase my knowledge.
Somebody's going to have a happy Christmas, I think. What do y'all guys think?
That's right. And you all should be having a happy Christmas. And speaking of happy Christmas, just a quick mention there, Silent Sinners mentioned the light giveaway, which will be happening, I think, tomorrow. We should be able to get it all sorted tomorrow. Yeah.
That's the HLG 700. That's going to one of our Patreon members.
That's right. We just got to set up the wheel. I've got the whole list of all the names and everything and how many entrants everybody has. You just need to put it on a wheel and then spin it. And I think we're going to do last man standing.
We're going to make it draw out a little bit.
Yeah, fucking drag that out, man. Because we did it last time. We only did the first one landed was the winner, wasn't it? But we'll get the stream up and running, and we'll have everybody decide what they want to do in a poll. All right, and hopefully it'll be last man standing, because that'll be fucking funny to just spin it for an hour removing
And,
each
and
person.
that's
until there's
about
one
what it's
left.
going to take. Yeah. We got a
Mhm.
lot of entries in this one. So yeah.
It'll be fun. But just a couple of listener mail questions that we'll get to. So let's do that. Yeah, from Billy as well. And they're not so bad. I think I ignored the bad ones. But Billy asks a question here, which also reminds me of a question to ask. Where should you not roll a joint, e.g., riding a motorbike, possible wind interference, similar to skydiving? Discuss. Yeah, so where should you...
I know. I have the answer. I do. Absolutely have the answer. On
Let's
a
do it.
rooftop in
Oh my God.
Barcelona
That's
at
right.
night in April.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Sounds oddly specific.
Yeah,
was.
we lost some cannabis doing that, Marge.
We
Okay.
lost all our
Right.
cannabis doing that, Marge. And I'm not joking. We
Oh,
lost
no,
it
all of it.
all. Yes,
Oh.
we did.
I'm
Yeah,
sure
okay.
Monkey had hold of the bag at that time as well, right?
Well, no, actually, I had, we didn't lose it all because this happened at Spanibus. It was late at night and everything was pretty much closed up. So my wife had the bright idea we're going to have everybody up on the roof. We're going to have a session up there, which was fine. And so we all got up there, big couches and stuff like that. Everybody took the weed that they had in their pockets and threw it out on the table. Okay, it was all in little baggies. So there's a big pile in there. And I grabbed one of the baggies and I had a bowl and I'm busting up some stuff to load a pipe. And all of a sudden, a gust of wind comes up. It's kind of this whirlwind kind of stuff like that. And I slammed my hand on top of the bowl as tight as I could. And I couldn't do anything else. And I'm just sitting holding the bowl and the wind is whipping like crazy. and nobody noticed it. Every bag that was on the table was shoom, it was gone. That quick.
And
I
that
reached
was
out and I grabbed one of them as it came by me. So I had one hand on the bowl and one like a 1 gram baggie of weed. Everything else was gone.
And we lost our Jorge ballsack weed then. So, we got that weed from Jorge and it blew off the rooftop and it probably floated down and hit somebody in the face. And they're like, what's this bag that smells like ballsack?
It has the best weed I've ever smoked in my life in it. Yeah, that. But anyway, that would be my first answer right there. On the rooftop in Barcelona.
Yeah,
Don't ever try that.
You know your abilities, everybody.
It is.
I have. It's like this rolled into a question of where is the craziest place you've rolled a joint, and I've rolled
Underwater.
a joint on the top of Mount Snowdon before when it was raining and all windy and shit. But I got it done. Well, what were you saying, Monkey? Underwater?
Underwater would be a bad place to roll.
Oh no! Where's the craziest place you've rolled a joint?
Under a stage rock and roll concert, Styx was playing. It was under the drum riser during the concert.
Nice. What about you, Marge? What's your craziest place you've rolled a joint?
I haven't rolled a joint in a while, actually. Actually, that's not true. I don't know. I do remember I had this isn't really a crazy thing, but I had an ex-boyfriend when we played a lot of board games. This was a long time ago.
Yeah, board games. Yeah, a long time ago. Yeah.
But we did at that time smoke a lot of joints. He usually rolled them though, but it was we were at the age where we had a lot of friends coming over and they become over to play board games with us. A lot of the times it was Risk or Axes and Allies, if people know that board game. But it's every time somebody dropped by, just another joint would get rolled, and then we were just blasted all the time. Playing board games, but it was good times.
Yeah, good times, man.
Yeah,
good times. Yeah, it's a good question there, Billy. You should all know your own limits and your capabilities. So if you think you're in a position where you're gonna lose the bud if you try rolling the joint, don't do it. But if you think you can and you're still gonna have a joint at the end of it, then fucking roll up, man. What the fuck? Fucking home grower. It's just a little bit of bud. If you do spin it, fuck it. So I'll roll another. It's all good. Yeah, so that's one question from Billy. We have another one here from Billy. How many liters of soil would you recommend when flowering pretty much straight from seed? So, what kind of size pot are you thinking if you're just going to plant it and get through to the end?
I'm assuming he means no nutrients. He just wants to do a water.
Yeah, that's it. This is one of those how long is a piece of elastic question,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Too much goes into this, man.
It depends on what soil we're starting with and what recipe it's from and all that good stuff like that. But I guess a good answer that I've seen mostly around the site, most people who are running a water only soil are recommending 5 gallons minimum.
Yeah, you're looking 50 liters is a good size. when you're
50
using living
liters?
soil. Yeah.
I think 5 gallons closer to 20 liters is I mean, that's like what Twisted runs that. I think TG was running actually
Mm-hmm.
3 gallons.
Well, I think for the good mycorrhizal, for the good, what's it called? Yeah, the mycorrhizal herd, isn't it? You want at least 25 liters. That's apparently
Okay.
the best way, but you can do it in less.
Yeah, living soil. I mean, if you want a
Mhm.
living soil bed, no till kind of bed. I think what was it? Build a soil. Jeremy was saying, I want to say 15 gallon
Mm-hmm.
minimum per plant
Yeah.
on that
Hmm.
one. If you just want to get living soil, no till grow.
Yeah.
Because that'll support enough biology and worms and wildlife in it that'll keep everything going.
Yeah. It's how long is a piece of elastic, you know? Because then if you're just using a normal soil and you're going to add food into it, then 20 liters should be plenty. If you're just using a normal bag soil that you're going to add nutrients to throughout the grow, 20 liters is good, right? That's a good size for a soil grow.
We're gonna find out. I've got one in soil now. First time I'm doing it. I've got one in 20 liters right now of TG's recipe with whatever modifications I had to make because of ingredients, but it basically TG stuff. We'll see if it makes it water only, if I'll be feeding toward the end. Don't know yet. We're 2 weeks in. Everything's
2
looking
weeks?
2 weeks.
You did it again.
Yep, I sure
It's
did.
amazing how often it comes up.
It
sure
really is,
does.
man. You don't realize until you've listened to a few episodes of High and Homegrown just how many times people say 2 weeks, man. It's fucking
Well, 2
crazy,
weeks.
you know? Madness. And anytime I hear it in conversation now,
You just want to
I
jump
know.
up and say it, don't you?
did he say 2 weeks? I know this isn't it. It's not the show. It's not the show. Don't
I
say
did it
anything.
in front of the missus the other day. She looked at me like I was crazy. I just like, it's a show thing. People don't worry about it.
It's habit now.
It is. It's
I know.
become part of my life.
JJ Jam, shout out to JJ Jam. I haven't seen you in the chat before, I don't think. Welcome. Percentage gallon minimum was that. If it's for autos, then you're looking at about 12 weeks for the from start to finish on average for an auto. So you think they're about 30, 40 liters. And just you want to make sure it's got plenty of nutrients in there to get you towards the end without having to add anything in it. So
yeah, it's gonna just like I said, it's gonna depend heavily upon the soil you use. Trying to remember what Zian he used to use 5 gallon pots pretty much. And it was water only all the way to the end on his too. It all depends your grow style, how long you're vegging for, how big of a plant you're gonna end up with. Lots
The
of
real
factors
answer
involved there.
is it depends.
yeah.
Love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be more specific and come and ask over on PercysGrowroom.com if you need any specific help with that kind of thing, and we'll be able to figure out what you should do for your specific set of circumstances. So we can help you answer it. You just need a more idea on the question. You know what I mean? More information on what the question is, and then we'll be able to figure it out. But yes,
Input.
I think need more input. Epic movie. So yeah. Christmas is coming, man. We get to watch Short Circuits again. Uncle Buck. Remember Uncle Buck? We watched that one.
Yeah.
Watch that one the other night.
Yeah. There's TG's recipe on Percy's. It should be.
It is. Under super soil and organic super soil recipe. Yes.
Mm-hmm. No disassemble. Yeah. What a quality movie.
Yeah. Reassembles.
Yeah, so I think that's it. That's all the list of mail questions we have, and that's everything covered for the grow guides there. Just remember what we said, be responsible with your edibles, label them properly, and don't give them to anybody who isn't fully aware of what they're just about to get themselves into. So be responsible. But that's it. Let's go to the outro. There we go. Nice and professional. Fading out. There we go. Nice. And I made sure that the other music isn't going to start, so we're all good. Yes, so there we go, everybody. Thanks for joining us, as usual. We appreciate being here on the Sundays. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Hope you learned some good things. And of course, if you want to learn more about edibles, then do go and check out Marge's website. Marge, you want to plug your website and stuff one more time?
Yes, it is. Bite Me, the show about edibles is the name of the show, which you can find on your favorite podcast platform, or go to bitemepodcast.com.
Nice. And of course, when you've done that, when you've picked what recipe you want, head over to percysgrowroom.com and show us the process of you making it. That would be cool. And we'll like to see what kind of stuff you will come up with. But of course, like we say, just be careful with who you're giving these things to. Don't get anybody too wasted. Yeah. So that's it.
And I'll take my invitation anytime you're ready. I'll be over there to try your infusions. Yeah.
That's right. If you need to test for potency, then just let us know. We do have people on hand for such a job. You know?
Trained professionals.
Yeah. When Bubble gets back, we just send them all to him. Be like, yeah, bro.
You're like, stronger. Got to be stronger, man.
Yeah, hopefully Bubble will be back soon, you know, with the festive season approaching. I'm sure he won't be working for too much longer. I'm sure he'll get some time off.
At least we hope so.
Anything else to add here? The last bit of the list for the grow guides, man, the stuff we're covering. If anybody has any suggestions as well, do feel free to throw them out. But let me just check here. We did cannabis cooking techniques today. Next week, we're going to talk about grow room electrical and fire safety, which is an important topic which we haven't covered yet. So I thought we'd get that one done. Creating sustainable cannabis garden is another one. Cannabis tourism and events, that's something which we want to cover so you can know what kind of things are happening in 2024, where you can go to, what countries you can visit that have legalized, things like that. High stress training, because we wanted to cover mainlining and manifolding, which is one of Monkey's techniques. So we can talk through that kind of stuff, super cropping, things like that. And then we're going to talk about recommended cannabis content creators, different podcasts to check out, different YouTube channels, which you should look into. And then we'll talk about the best interviews, what interviews we think you need to go and check out if you haven't listened to already. We'll cover an episode on just going over which ones we think are the most useful for listeners who are learning how to grow. And then the best Grow Guides episodes for new growers will be the last episode, the 100. And then we're moving on to the whole thing over again, I think. Yeah, so we'll
repeat.
But we're going to possibly be doing something a little bit different as well. But we'll finalize the ideas and then get back to you with that. But some interesting stuff, man, which I like the idea of. So Phil Bushman says Shanti Barber episode was good. Yeah, that was a good interview. If you haven't listened to it, everybody go check out the Shanti Barber episode, which happened just on Wednesday. Go and check that out. And we got another good interview coming out on Wednesday as well with Emma Appleby, a medical cannabis mom. Good interview there too. So always lots of good content. I hope you enjoy it, everybody. And thanks as always for being here and listening to the show. And, you know, and downloading it if you do, and sharing it if you do as well. Sharing is important. Please share if you can. It helps the show grow. But that's everything. We'll let you go and enjoy the rest of your day. Stay high and stay safe, everybody. We'll catch you on the next one. Goodbye.
Yes. Get those infusions ready, everybody.
That's right.
Don't forget, Die Hard is a Christmas movie.
No, it's not. No way.